What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Very Cold Lasagna, the podcast that is a safe and open listening platform for casual, cold, and even the dumbest opinions on the world of WWE, AEW, the NFL, and the wide world of pro wrestling and sports in general. I'm your host, DylanLasagna, and welcome to today's episode number 39. It's time to open up that fridge and grab that very cold lasagna for another episode here today. So, in this episode, we're going to be talking about SummerSlam 2021 and this review of the show. And I gotta tell you, right off the bat, most of it was boring. But the main events, the three matches that were in the main event slot were pretty good. They were pretty good for the most part. They were pretty good, especially the main event. Honestly, like one of the best SummerSlam main events I've seen, and the ending to the show. I honestly couldn't believe that happening, and I can't wait to see what happens going forward after SummerSlam with that ending. But we're gonna talk about it here on this review of SummerSlam 2021. Before I get to the social media plugs and all that, I want to talk about some little things that happened around Allegiant Stadium at SummerSlam, and a little bit of a story of how I watched SummerSlam this past Saturday. So, as you knew, SummerSlam was in Allegiant Stadium this past Saturday, not Sunday. But anyway, and obviously many people were required to wear masks due to the mandate enforced on Allegiant Stadium and Ticketmaster. Some people didn't follow it. A lot of people that were seen on camera did. And yeah, enforcement varied. Some say it was very strict, and obviously once they got to the crowd, to the show, I don't know how it looked pretty hard to enforce it once the show began. But anyway, looked like it was pretty hard like to enforce once the show began rolling, but it looked like everyone was wearing their masks. But the issues continued to pile on for Allegiant Stadium because apparently they were having trouble with the interior on Saturday night, like interior, like shops, food, whatnot. So apparently, according to Las Vegas Locally on Twitter, and among other people that attended the event on Saturday, but these were just reported issues by Las Vegas Locally. These issues from fans included the cashless payment system being down, and that resulted in concessions like food, beer, other drinks not being sold, so they had to give food away for free. The in-stadium Wi-Fi being dead, toilets overflowing, so the bathroom was just like clogged, the PA system not working properly, and yeah, that did not sound fun at all. That does not sound fun at all. And this is literally a stadium, that houses a football team in the Las Vegas Raiders that begin their football season in less than a month. And they also just had a preseason game. So the Raiders begin their NFL season in less than a month in a nationally televised game against the Baltimore Ravens. And you have these issues. I really hope they get Mark Davis, the people that built the stadium, get their shit together, because if this happens during a full 4 months for the rest of the year, people are going to be pissed. Raider Nation's going to be pissed, Mark Davis, if these issues happen during your regular season. So I'm actually glad I didn't get to go to SummerSlam, because I didn't want to have to deal with these issues. Speaking of, going to SummerSlam, I decided to go to SummerSlam in the movie theater. Yeah, I decided to watch the pay-per-view in a movie theater with my friend. Like I mentioned before, in the preview episode of SummerSlam, I couldn't get to go because my friend that I was originally supposed to go with, I had to back out for financial reasons. He was dealing with some financial issues. And I was trying to find someone to go. Couldn't find anyone. So I tried to sell the tickets. That didn't work out. So, my tickets were no-go. But I was able to watch the show with my friends in the movie theater. And honestly, it was not bad at all. I thought it was gonna be laggy, glitchy. I thought they were gonna show the Peacock feed, which they probably did, but it surprisingly ran smooth. Yeah. I was honestly pretty surprised there were like no issues at all. And I gotta say, for WWE pay-per-view in a movie theater, now sure, it's the first time they did it, and it's not they're not the first ones doing this. It was honestly pretty smooth. So I think they could do this for like Survivor Series, WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, and whatnot. But this was a good start. I actually like this idea. For people that can't go to the actual event, or they're having problems with Peacock, why not go to the movie theater? Yeah, why not? So yeah, that's my experience with watching a WWE pay-per-view in a movie theater. So honestly, not bad at all. Watching some wrestling, eating popcorn, drinking some soda. There's honestly I think 6 other people in the auditorium I was in, so I was able to kick back, relax, put my feet up on the other empty chairs. Although it did get kind of hectic on my body, because sitting in my seat for so long gets taxing, so I had to get up and stretch for a little bit. So yeah, it was pretty cool, I guess, to watch SummerSlam in a movie theater. But now that we got that out of the way, we gotta talk about SummerSlam itself. How was this show? Like I said before, it was mildly decent. Most of the stuff was boring, but the main events, the 3 matches that were in the main event slots, were pretty good. It hit home. So we're gonna talk about SummerSlam in this SummerSlam 2021 review. But before we do, we always do what we gotta do here on Very Cold Lasagna to start the show before we get into the main topic, and that is shill ourselves. We gotta plug them social medias here on Very Cold Lasagna. Make sure to subscribe, turn on your notification bell so you're notified of each and every episode of Very Cold Lasagna, as well as those exclusive extras that you only get to see on the VCL YouTube channel. And also, make sure to listen to me on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor FM, and follow the show on social media on Twitter and Instagram at Very Cold Lasagna. Let's now talk about SummerSlam 2021 in Allegiant Stadium, the home of the Las Vegas Raiders in Las Vegas, Nevada. And we start off the show with Big E versus Baron Corbin in the kickoff. So this was a last minute match. Obviously, didn't get to cover in the preview episode of Very Cold Lasagna, because again, they just added this literally minutes before it happened. So Big E trying to get his Money in the Bank briefcase back from Baron Corbin, homeless Baron Corbin, trying to get his luck back on his side. But unfortunately for him, his luck once again ran out, back down on his luck, because Big E got his Money in the Bank contract back with the big ending. 1, 2, 3. Big E has the Money in the Bank briefcase again. Now, poor Baron Corbin. He's just wondering at this point, what the hell am I going to do to get back on my feet? Well, maybe if you saw on social media, which should be aired on TV, he went to the casino afterwards and managed to get $100 from, I don't know what game he played, like slots or, I don't know, blackjack or whatnot, but he managed to get $100 from the casino. So there you go, Baron Corbin. Invest it wisely. So then we officially kick off the show with the Raw Tag Team Champions AJ Styles and Omos taking on RK Bro, Randy Orton, and Matt Riddle. So the crowd was very into Matt Riddle, and I don't know why. Matt Riddle's pretty much has a kindergartner gimmick, but Randy Orton, totally understandable. Future Hall of Famer, the Viper, a meme guy because of the RKO. So Riddle took most of the onslaught from AJ Styles and Omos, but once he was able to get the tag on Randy Orton came in hot. So Matt Riddle tries to dive onto AJ Styles and Omos, but Omos chokeslams Matt Riddle onto the ring apron, and Styles gives him a leg sweep onto the floor. So Matt Riddle's pretty much taking all the punishment for Randy Orton. So while Riddle is taking care of Omos, Styles tries to set up for the phenomenal forearm, but he sees that almost got his bell knocked in by Matt Riddle because he almost got knocked into the ring post. So Randy Orton eventually hits the RKO on AJ Styles to win the Raw Tag Team titles on for RK Bro. So I still don't like Matt Riddle. I still consider him pretty cringy. But I mean, at least Randy Orton can be a guy, you know, his snake-like nature can toughen him up, I guess. So this match was whatever. They got interviewed by Mario Lopez of Access Hollywood. I mean, I was just like surprised that it was over before it started. But considering that that was the theme of the night, I mean, it was whatever. So then we get Eva Marie going up against Alexa Bliss in the second match of the night. And yeah, this was not good at all. This was pretty bad. So Eva Marie took Alexa's doll Lily, smacked it around, and that pissed off Alexa Bliss. Alexa Bliss even got smacked by her own doll, and that pissed her off even more. So Alexa would have a temper tantrum on Eva Marie, hitting the twisted DDT to win the match. And Piper Niven, aka Dowdrop, would announce Eva Marie as the loser of this match before walking to the back in Eva's robe. So yeah, this match absolutely sucked. Eva Marie didn't look good, you know, for all the training that she's done. The clips that she posted on social media of her training in the ring, yeah, it surely hasn't applied well. Now, sure, she has a good look, but damn, she's got to get better in the ring. It looks like they're gonna break up finally, Piper Niven and Eva for real this time. But I just don't know what they're gonna do with Eva Marie. Like, I don't think she has a place on the roster. Maybe she could be a talk show host or something, start a talk show. But yeah, I don't see what they can do going forward. As for Alexa Bliss, I think it's time to put a stop to this Lily Fiendus gimmick, because all people are gonna think about is Bray Wyatt. And I mean, I give Alexa credit for trying to continue on with this gimmick, but it's not working. It is really not connecting with people. She works better when she's like the evil, sadistic, goddess, like not with the like the doll and everything, but like 2019 and previously. So I don't know what's next for Alexa Bliss, but hopefully sooner than later she drops the Fiendus gimmick. So that was Alexa Bliss versus Eva Marie, a terrible match. Then we had the United States Championship match between Sheamus and Damian Priest, and this was a pretty solid match that finally got me into the show. Two dudes that battled it out in a house fight, and this was even a match that I considered, that I didn't really care about, because, well, they didn't really do much to garner a story, because, well, Damian Priest has been like stuck in this endless feud with Miz the Jizz and Moist Ass John Morrison, and he was still stuck in that feud while he was in a feud with Sheamus. So Damian Priest appeared to have hurt his hip on a top rope dive onto Sheamus, and that would become a focal point in this match. So Sheamus would either frequently target Damian Priest's hip, or Damian Priest would be unable to use like power moves because, well, his hip would give out. But in the end, Damian Priest would win the match. He would escape from a heel hook from Sheamus by taking off Sheamus's protective mask. Sheamus trying to protect his pretty face. He couldn't, because Damian Priest delivered a heel hook and he hit the Reckoning to win the United States Championship. So good for Damian Priest. Finally, after all the mishaps, that is WWE Creative, gets a title. Now let's see what he does with it. I hope he gets second life, gets a renewed push. But let's see who challenges him. Let's see who WWE gives him as challengers. He'll probably get a rematch with Sheamus, and then hopefully retains. But let's see what his first major feud will be. Hopefully it's not the Jizz and Moist Ass Morrison. So then we get a gameplay trailer for WWE 2K22. And for all the gamers out there, for all the 2K content creators, you got some sad news here. The game is coming out in March of 2022. So close to WrestleMania 38 time. So this is much later than the usual late fall window when the game comes out at around the time of Survivor Series. But I normally don't talk about like video games here on Very Cold Lasagna because I talk about it in my own off the podcast. But I just hope that the WWE 2K team uses this extended time, to polish some bugs and glitches and cut some of the released wrestlers, add some new wrestlers in, and replace them with new wrestlers that are actually on the roster. Update the stages because they're not using the Thunderdome anymore. Make the current Raw stage, make the current SmackDown stage and whatnot. Make the game as updated as possible instead of releasing the most outdated game in pro wrestling history. So make it as most up to date as possible. Otherwise, you're gonna get another WWE 2K20, and people are gonna be pissed if they do that. So then we had the SmackDown Tag Team Championship match between the Usos and the Mysterios. The Usos would dominate Dominic for half of the match, but once Dominic would tag in his father, Rey Mysterio, they got back into it. But unfortunately, that comeback would be very brief because Jimmy would hit 2 super kicks and a super fly splash onto Rey Mysterio. And surprisingly, Rey Mysterio kicked out. Who would have thought of that? I thought the match would be over, but Rey kicked out. So the Usos would take out Dominic, and even though Rey tried to charge a comeback with a 619 on Jimmy Uso, he missed the follow-up frog splash. I'm like, Rey, what are you doing? How do you miss that? Like Jay dodged out of the way at the last second. So the Usos would hit a double super kick on Rey before Jay hit another superfly splash to retain the SmackDown Tag Team titles. So it was a fine match for what it was. The problem was, it was very hard for me to care, given that we've seen both teams fight each other in singles competition in the weeks prior. Like literally, you would see either Rey fight Jimmy, or Dominic fight Jay, or Rey fight Jay, Dominic fight Jay. It was literally a revolving door of both teams fighting each other in singles matches. Like, that's why this match felt so devalued to me. I honestly don't know who to root for here. Like, I like Rey Mysterio. I also like the Usos, but they faced off against each other so many times that I just can't seem to care. It's like there's no good result that's gonna happen because at the end of the day, one of them's gonna be tag team champions, and I'm like, well, obviously one of them's gonna be the loser, and they're gonna have to fall back down the card. And then after that, there's no competition. There's not gonna be any competition, especially for the Usos. So who are they gonna face? Like I said on the preview episode, the street jobbers, the street profits are overrated, drunk ass hype men. Otis and Chad Gable are uninteresting and simply boring. Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode, like, for as much as I like Bobby Roode, like, he sold out to shake his ass with Dolph Ziggler. So overall, we'll see what happens with the Mysterios. They apparently have been teasing some frustration between father and son, but we'll see what happens. And hopefully the Usos can move on to whatever is left of the SmackDown Tag Team division, because honestly, they got nothing left of it. So afterwards, Rick Boogs came out to have a brief musical performance with Shinsuke Nakamura. They were just dancing along to Shinsuke's theme, and then Pat McAfee joined along. It was, not good. Like, Pat McAfee, I love you, man. I love your commentary. I like to work on your show, but you don't have to dance with Rick Boogs. Come on. So then we get the SmackDown Women's Championship match between Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks. Or so we thought we were gonna get it. So, like I said on the last episode of Very Cold Lasagna, I was not interested in this match at all. Like, there's just no story behind this match other than Sasha Banks once again wanting the spotlight all to herself, because that's all Sasha Banks is. This one-dimensional pro wrestler that oh, I work hard. I want the spotlight to myself. I have blue hair. I'm the boss. That's pretty much all Sasha Banks is. And then for Bianca, like, she has potential to be a successful wrestler. It's just that she's not really tapping in to that potential. Like, she cuts decent promos. She's not the worst, like, mic worker of all time, but she can use work. I feel like she's just not ready, I guess, but I don't know what's going on. Why WWE is just holding back on, making Bianca a top star. But that was pretty evident in what we're about to talk about. So WWE had been promoting this match for weeks on end, but this is where things started to get suspicious. Sasha Banks wasn't on the Go Home show the night before SummerSlam. Bianca made her way out first. So it wasn't the challenger Sasha Banks coming out first. It was the champion Bianca Belair coming out first. So something was clearly wrong. And that was pretty much confirmed because Greg Hamilton, the SmackDown ring announcer, announced that Sasha Banks was not there. She was not medically cleared to compete. And people were pissed. People were actually pissed about this. Well, we'll get into that in just a bit when I talk about my thoughts on this match. So instead of Sasha Banks, Carmella would be announced to face Bianca. So she came down here with her entrance and whatnot. And just like the fans, for whatever reason, they're entitled to like Sasha Banks, but whatever. And I'm also entitled to express my opinion on Sasha Banks. Bianca was pissed about the fact that Sasha couldn't appear, she couldn't compete, and she was going to use her frustrations about her match being canceled and take it out on Carmella in this new match. But that was until it's the man. The man came here, guys. The man is back. It's the stale as chips, stale potato chips, Pringles, the cringe, the repetitive man. Becky Lynch is back. It's Becky Lynch, guys. Yay. So Becky Lynch is back. Yeah, from having her kid. Cool. So Becky Lynch threw out Carmella like everyday trash, challenged Bianca for the title, and one fake handshake and manhandle slam later, Becky Lynch is champion. Just like that. So, besides the fact that Becky Lynch, in her stale and repetitive man gimmick, being back on my television screen, there is a lot wrong. There's a lot wrong with what just happened in that short amount of time. So first of all, WWE apparently knew that Sasha Banks wasn't going to be able to compete for whatever reason for weeks after she missed house shows last week, the week before SummerSlam, as well as the Go Home SmackDown show the night before. So why did they continually insist on advertising this match? This is like false advertising, like to the brink. This was just very bad on WWE's end. This is like absolute betrayal by WWE. This is just like a big F you to fans. Like, first of all, I don't like any like Sasha Banks. This was like, people hate to see her. Like, people hate to see her. Some even went to SummerSlam just to see her, and it was just like a house show, subject to change because Sasha was unable to be there for whatever reason. Except it was on a pay-per-view on a national level. People are watching this worldwide, and WWE pulls this shit. And this is coming from one of Sasha Banks' critics. This is not a good business move, WWE. This is really not. Now, as for Becky Lynch, WWE honestly could have wrote a better last-minute return, because apparently this was not the way WWE was supposed to do it. This is very last minute. So you could honestly, to play fantasy booker, I guess, why not, instead of a Carmella, why not just have Toni Storm, who hasn't been used since she debuted on SmackDown? Why not have Bianca Belair, have an open challenge, and then have Toni Storm come out. They have a match, like, even though the fans are reasonably pissed that Sasha's not there to, have this anticipated rematch, Toni Storm, Bianca Belair, get the crowd back on their side. Like, I'm not saying it could have been a guarantee, but they at least tried to turn something around. And Bianca retains. They shake hands, and then out of nowhere, Becky Lynch returns. Then she challenges Bianca to a future title match that Bianca accepts. They could have done that. Or why not have Becky Lynch interject herself into the Raw Women's title match? Because, hello, dumb shit, WWE, it's the title she never lost. Because when she vacated that title, it was technically never losing. Like, I'm just trying to be ounce a little bit of, decency here, I guess. I'm trying to, I don't know, for as much as I don't like either of these two women, trying to state a little bit of, I don't know, fact here. So people were happy that Becky Lynch was back. She made her grand entrance. People were popping out loud for that the stalest, repetitive man is back. But once she beat Bianca in this, pretty much almost the same way that Brock Lesnar beat Kofi Kingston, all those people were just left confused and dumbfounded. Wait, this wasn't supposed to happen. Yeah. You want to call her your man now? Really? After that bullshit? Now, I know some of you will say, let it play out with Bianca and Becky. But I'm sorry. How can any of you believe that Bianca is the EST, the fastest, strongest, bestest after losing the title in a Kofi Kingston, Daniel Bryan fashion? Kofi Kingston honestly never recovered. Now, you can certainly say that Daniel Bryan recovered because, well, he pretty much forced the issue. But still, can we really say the same about Bianca Belair? Can we really say the same? For as stale, as cringy as her title reign was getting, she still possessed some potential. But this is more the fault of WWE here. They put in all this effort to make Bianca Belair a top star on SmackDown. And she got Kofi Kingston on a Big Four pay-per-view. This was honestly worse than Kofi Kingston getting squashed by Brock Lesnar. This was honestly worse than going all the way back to 2014. Paige losing her first Divas title to AJ Lee in the same fashion that Paige won the Divas title from AJ Lee. So, even if Bianca wins back the SmackDown Women's title from Becky Lynch, how is anyone going to view her as legitimate? I'm just saying. How is anyone going to view Bianca as the EST now? Can anyone? Really? It didn't have to be this way. It honestly didn't have to be this way. And that's coming from someone that cared very little about this match. WWE, they felt pretty stupid. They felt pretty stupid going into this. So that was the stupidity of the SmackDown Women's title match. Let's talk about the next match: Drew McIntyre versus Jinder Mahal. So I honestly had to go to the bathroom, and then after I got out of the bathroom, I had to get a soda because my mouth was getting dry as hell from eating all the popcorn. And once I came back, the match was already halfway finished. But let's be honest, there wasn't really much to this match because Jinder Mahal got some early offense in, and then after that, at the halfway point when I came back, Drew McIntyre was already making his dominant comeback with the Future Shock DDT and then the 3-2-1 Claymore to easily beat Jinder Mahal. So, like I said before, Drew McIntyre was going to win this match anyway. It's just the way I won it. I didn't think was going to be that easily. So hopefully he'll move on to something else after Saturday night. Jinder Mahal is probably going to go back down to the undercard. So that was Drew McIntyre versus Jinder Mahal. So now let's talk about the Raw Women's Championship match between Nikki ASH, almost a superhero, going up against Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley. A battle between not almost a superhero and two Seattle She-Hawks. This was a pretty boring match. And it featured Charlotte Flair nearly killing Nikki ASH and herself with a botchy moonsault. Like literally, she hit a moonsault, but she almost landed her legs onto the barricade, onto the nearest barricade, and Nikki Cross hit her head on the impact of that moonsault onto the barricade wall. I'm like, Charlotte, are you trying to whack your competitors into retirement? Like, come on. So pretty much this was the Charlotte Flair show. Like, no matter how much offense that Nikki Cross and Rhea Ripley would give, even on double teams, Charlotte would overpower them. This was clearly evident when she locked in the figure 8 on Rhea Ripley. And even though Nikki Cross broke it up and Nikki Cross tried to go for the finishing splash, Charlotte dodged it, and Nikki Cross herself tapped out to the figure 8, and Charlotte once again is the Raw Women's Champion. Will be Super Charlotte, guys. So honestly, this was going to be in favor of Charlotte anyway. I already predicted that Charlotte was going to win it because, Charlotte wins, lol. But you can clearly tell from the beginning of this match that Nikki's almost a superhero story was going to come crashing down when she was the first one making her entrance. And another indicator that Nikki was going to lose was, again, Charlotte dominating this match from left to right. So once again, the Matthew Stafford of the WWE, Pad Statford, she has another stat pad title reign. So who's going to challenge Charlotte Flair now? I feel like there's out of this title reign for Charlotte Flair, title reign number, 15 or 12 if you don't count the NXT and women's tag team title reigns, because WWE likes to do that a lot. This is the title reign where she literally has nobody to face, literally nobody, nobody legitimate, because Rhea Ripley has lost so many times to her, and Nikki's ASH run is officially over. It's done. There's nothing more you can do with it. It already reached a peak and it came crashing down as soon as it started. So if you thought the Raw Women's division is already bad with Charlotte as champion again, it's going to get a lot worse with no one left to challenge her. Literally, there's no one. So we then get into the main events of the night. Finally. Edge versus Seth Rollins. And this was one of the best matches of the night. Actually, the second best match of the night, obviously, with the main event being the match of the night. So Edge came out to his old Brood entrance, following up on the previous night's Blast of the Past with the Brood. He came out with the fire, the red lighting, the callback to the Brood. And then he had his regular entrance. He was all fired up. He was demented. He was angry that Seth Rollins mentioned his family. So much of this match involved Seth Rollins focusing on Edge's surgically repaired neck, which was pretty much the story of this feud. Seth Rollins trying to finish the job that he should have started in 2014, at least in his mind. And every time that Edge made a brief comeback, Seth Rollins stopped it. Seth Rollins would stop it. So Seth would hit all these big moves like a superplex, a Falcon Arrow, and he tried to go for the curb stomp and the pedigree, but Edge would counter it with his wife's finishing move, Beth Phoenix, the Glam Slam. And both of those times were met with a near fall. So Edge begins his comeback as he speared Seth Rollins through the ropes, and he tried for it again in the ring, but he was met mid-air rushing to Rollins with a pedigree for another near fall. So that spot was actually a callback to when Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins at the end of Money in the Bank 2016. So that was a pretty cool callback there. So near the end of the match, Seth Rollins tries to hit the curb stomp, but he gets locked into the modified sharpshooter educator by Edge and into the crossface. And to stop Rollins from escaping, he smashes he lets go of the hold and then smashes Seth Rollins' face into the mat, locks it in again, and forces a tap out, which I honestly never seen before in an Edge match. Like, I never seen Edge win via submission. And it was honestly a really good way to end the match because it just never happened before. So the match started off pretty slow, and let's be honest, a lot of matches nowadays start that way because the early portions of the match are to set the tone, like set the pace and set the story. And that's exactly what they did here in this match, because the story of this match is Seth Rollins trying to finish the job he at least in his mind should have done 7 years ago, and Edge wanting to get his revenge. And Rollins was in the early offense trying to finish that job. But once Edge began his comeback, that's when the pace began to quicken. That's when Edge and Rollins tried to hit each other with their best shot, but they couldn't do it. But in the end, it was Edge that went back to his dark self, his deeper side. That's why he went back to his roots in the Brood. And it eventually helped him beat Rollins in a way that Edge hasn't really won before. Again, I've never seen Edge win via submission. So I guess for me, it's a first to see that. So I don't know what's next for both men. I don't know if this is a one-off, but I just see with the way that the cameras were rolling post-match, it seemed like they could have one more match. It seems like there's another like chapter that's gonna be written, because they were pointing towards Edge and Rollins. Edge celebrating while Rollins is like literally straight down below him. You know, he's just looking away from Edge's direction. You know, disappointed that he lost. I honestly think it might lead towards one more match at Extreme Rules with a seriously fucked up stipulation fitting of both of them. So if we get another match between them, be cool. But Edge wins via submission on Seth Rollins in a pretty good match. So after Edge versus Seth Rollins, like, WWE is trying to get fans to cool down, and they get some help in the form of the Jizz, the Miz, and moist ass John Morrison. So they get moist with the WWE fans, and Xavier Woods with the Dripstick 2000. Yeah, that was a thing that didn't need to happen. So after that stupidity, we get the WWE Championship match between Bobby Lashley and Big Bill Goldberg. And honestly, this was a pretty solid match. For as much as I crap on modern Goldberg matches, this was actually pretty solid. I think this is his second best match besides the WrestleMania 33 match with Brock Lesnar. And I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for that, but hear me out. So let's get into some of the highlights. So Goldberg hits a variety of power moves like a power slam and a press counter. And again, like, that's why it makes it solid. It's deviating away from the usual, it ends in a spear and a jackhammer in favor of Goldberg. And he's trying to like vary his moveset, like his match routine, like even if it doesn't end in a victory for him. So, I mean, at least it's something, I guess. So he hits Lashley with the spear, but it's on the outside, so he has to drag him back into the ring so he can hit the spear and the jackhammer for a WWE title victory. But Lashley rolls to the other side of the ring, and while the referee is tending to him, MVP injures Goldberg's knee with his cane. And while Goldberg is confronting Lashley about it, the Almighty chop blocks him And that became the focal point of the match, Goldberg's injured knee. So Lashley continued to target the knee with more chop blocks. And eventually the referee had to call the match. He had to stop it because Big Bill Goldberg was unable to stand and he couldn't withstand any more of the damage. So afterwards, the almighty WWE champion continued the onslaught with a steel chair to Goldberg's injured leg. And eventually, Gage, Goldberg's son, jumped Bobby Lashley. And I'm just like, are you stupid? Like, what are you doing? Don't do that. He paid the price for it because he got locked in to the Hurt Lock. And he passed him out. And MVP had to stop him because, like, there could be serious repercussions. And he claimed that Lashley was just acting out of self-defense, and he declared him the almighty WWE champion. And Goldberg was yelling at them, saying, "I'm gonna kill you," while he was tending to his son. And that was the WWE championship match. Like I said, this is a pretty solid match. Not because of the moves that Goldberg hit, and I know a lot of people left the crap on Goldberg's wrestling, and on all honesty, admittedly, I like to too. I tend to do that too. But for me, why this was a solid match, it was the storytelling in this match that made it a solid affair. You know, Goldberg hitting these power moves, but he wasn't able to do that because MVP flashed a weak point. He hit Goldberg's knee. And that didn't allow him to walk or run, especially run, because he has to get a running start to hit the spear. And he can't do that if his leg is injured. And that allowed Bobby Lashley to relentlessly assault him from the leg down. So anyway, Goldberg was at a weak point, and that allowed Lashley to dissect Goldberg and retain his title in an interesting way. So this clearly smells rematch, especially with the way that Lashley locked in the Hurt Lock on Goldberg's son. And this is probably going to happen at Crown Jewel, WWE's Blood Money Saudi show. That Bobby Lashley has to win too. Like, Bobby Lashley has to win, but don't be surprised if Goldberg gets his revenge, gets the WWE title, heads to Survivor Series in a champion versus champion match, or a WWE title rematch with Bobby Lashley or whatnot. But I don't know. Either way, there's going to be a rematch. But what we got at SummerSlam was pretty solid between Bobby Lashley and Goldberg. And I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for that. But then we get into the big main event. The big main event that we've all been waiting for all night. The reason why we're here. Roman Reigns versus John Cena for the Universal Championship match. Now, stipulation was added the night before by Roman Reigns, where if he lost the title, he would leave the WWE. And this match already had a big fight feel. Everyone was excited. We got through all the bullshit from before. Now, it's like that big fight boxing match. And ironically, there was a boxing match, like literally a couple blocks down the strip, up the strip with Manny Pacquiao. And it just felt big. It really felt big. So John Cena comes out in Super Mario Bros. 3 themed attire, which you can only get as cryptocurrency, like that NFT stuff. And apparently this, I don't know, I'm just guessing this is like WWE's way of avoiding a lawsuit from Nintendo, because Nintendo can be very very sketchy, with their copyrights if someone infringes on their copyright. So Roman Reigns comes out, heading into this match, the head of the table, all confident, not fazed by John Cena. So we get the match. The match begins. John Cena tries to get some fruit roll-ups on Roman Reigns, but Roman Reigns would eventually get the best of him, dominate him in the early proceedings, and and while doing so, he would talk shit on John Cena, and he would talk shit on Hollywood. That's just how good Roman Reigns is as a heel. He beats up on people, and he talks shit while doing so. pretty good stuff there. So John Cena tries to rally with his 5 moves of doom, but Reigns catches him, locks him into the guillotine, but John Cena escapes, finishes his 5 moves of doom rally with the 5 knuckle shuffle and a surprisingly successful attitude adjustment. But fortunately, it gets a stress-inducing 2 count. Like, I really thought, like, when John Cena actually hit an attitude adjustment successfully, because usually when John Cena hits an attitude adjustment for the first time in a match, it usually results in a 3 count, but here it was just 2. So Cena continued his comeback with an STF and then an attitude adjustment through the announce table, but he was just met with a 2 count again. So Cena dodged the spear, brought Roman Reigns to the top rope for a super attitude adjustment, and that still didn't bring down Roman Reigns. And Cena's just wondering, what do I have to do to take down the head of the table? So John Cena got into the corner, and this is where his downfall began. He roared like Roman Reigns. He clearly didn't learn his mistakes from WrestleMania 20 and 29. You don't mock your opposition. Because he proceeded to run as fast as he can, tried to spear Roman Reigns, but he was met by a rally by Reigns, consecutive Superman punches, and a finishing spear. Roman Reigns retains the Universal Championship match in an epic match. It was a really good match right there. But that really good match was immediately met by the returning Brock Lesnar. His music hit. He marched down the ring. He stared down Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman, his advocate, or at least we think. Paul Heyman was just cowering fear, was like, Brock, this is not what you think. And Reigns, Lesnar were staring down each other. And as Lesnar was getting closer to Reigns got out of the ring with Paul Heyman. Lesnar stood alone to end the show. And after the show went off the air, Lesnar, for old time's sake, took John Cena to Suplex City for the fans to send the crowd home happy. So, first of all, let's talk about this match. This was a masterclass on how to actually tell a story, how to time near falls, how to, put on an actual wrestling match. Now, sure, it wasn't like Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels, but this is how you're actually supposed to pace a match. Like, not make everything too slow or too fast, but not also have a bunch of false finishes or a bunch of spot orgies like, some other certain matches that people consider all elite. But this was a masterclass of storytelling, a match with an actual story with wrestlers that have actual characters. That's why this match lived up to the hype. John Cena seemed so confident that he could secure his 17th world title and in essence break Ric Flair's all-time record. But for as overconfident as Roman Reigns is as the heel, John Cena is just as overconfident because, him mocking The Rock, he also mocked Roman Reigns, and that led to his downfall again. It also seemed like Cena was out of his element because at times Reigns countered and he stopped nearly all aspects of offense that Cena had. Like even Cena's best shots, like the 5 knuckle shuffle, like the 5 moves of doom, the STF, the attitude adjustment through the table, the super AA, they weren't enough. They were not enough to put down the tribal chief. So, like literally every shot that John Cena gave, Roman Reigns was able to survive and even counter. And as for Roman Reigns, he proved once again that he can hang with the best, and he could produce a classic with one of the best ever in pro wrestling. So, for Cena, although he has a couple more dates with WWE, he's probably going back to Hollywood, work on his next film, and I'm looking forward to whenever he comes back to WWE and, his next film. But man, let's talk about that return. Brock Lesnar, he looks scary and jacked as fuck. It's no wonder Paul Heyman was this close to pissing his pants when he came out. I don't know if I ever said this on Very Cold Lasagna, but I've been wanting this Roman Reigns, you know, the head of the table, the tribal chief, this Roman Reigns versus this Brock Lesnar, the babyface Brock Lesnar, because technically he is the babyface in this renewed chapter of Reigns versus Lesnar, because their feuds in 2016 to 2018, they were not good. I gotta be honest with you, they were not good, because Reigns didn't really have an identity. He wasn't as confident as he was, and Brock Lesnar was, and probably still is, a repetitive suplex machine. And they were following the same tired match formula. You know, spear, suplex city, F5. Reigns beats up on Lesnar. Or Lesnar beats up on Reigns and whatnot. But this just feels so much different. Ever since Roman Reigns aligned with Paul Heyman and vice versa last year, fans have been wondering, where's Brock Lesnar? Why isn't Brock Lesnar like trying to do something about this new alliance? Brock Lesnar has been around since he lost the WWE title to Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania 36. So everyone was wondering, how is he going to feel about his advocate Paul Heyman aligning with his rival Roman Reigns? And speaking of Paul Heyman, he's like the middleman. Who is he going to side with? Is he going to side with, you know, his OG client that he's been around with since pretty much his whole career? Or is he going to be his special counsel for the reigning defending Universal Champion? I honestly can't wait. I honestly can't wait to see what unfolds on SmackDown Friday night between Lesnar, Reigns, and Heyman. But I can tell you right now, like, there's no way they waste this version of Roman Reigns versus this version of Lesnar at any pay-per-view. Not Extreme Rules, not at Crown Jewel. They gotta save this for Survivor Series. This has to happen at Survivor Series in Brooklyn. If it is at Brooklyn, but I think it is. Like, WWE, if you can find it in your inept minds with that creative team, you have to build this up all the way for another 3 months. Like, slowly build this up. Give Roman Reigns some challengers, if there are any left. And while doing so, make some teases. Like, have Brock Lesnar appear a few times to build up this match. Have Brock Lesnar cut some promos. Because apparently, I don't think he's going to be aligned with Paul Heyman. So let him do some talking. Let him do some talking. Something that he hasn't done like regularly. Like he would talk here and there, but he wouldn't do regularly since 2003. So this is going to be interesting. This is also a match too big for just a regular B show pay-per-view, especially Blood Money round 6 in Saudi Arabia. So overall, SummerSlam, it was a mildly decent pay-per-view. Pretty boring for the most part. A lot of filler. That had a lot of stupidity, especially with the return of the stale as Pringles Becky Lynch and Charlotte stat padding another title. You know, the 4 horsewomen running wild, ladies and gentlemen, once again. But, you know, the top matches were worth their hype. You know, Edge versus Seth Rollins, putting on a thriller, a wild ride. Lashley versus Goldberg, surprisingly solid too, with you know, the story of Goldberg's knee, you know, Gage getting involved. Pretty solid stuff there. And Roman Reigns versus John Cena, living up to the hype as the main event of SummerSlam. And Brock Lesnar's return. That was pretty good stuff. Very, very good. I'm very excited to see what this next chapter of Reigns versus Lesnar is. And who Paul Heyman is eventually going to side with. It's going to be interesting. But that is it for this episode of Very Cold Lasagna. What do you guys think about SummerSlam 2021? Let me know how you feel, whether it's in the comments on YouTube or a message, a comment on social media. Let me know how you feel and felt about SummerSlam 2021. But that is it for me, from DylanLasagna, here on this fine episode of Very Cold Lasagna from this SummerSlam review. Follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Very Cold Lasagna. Listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor FM. Subscribe, turn on the notification bell on YouTube so you'll be notified of each and every episode that goes up, and along with the exclusive extras, rants, news, thoughts, whatever videos that I put up there. And as always, keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of pro wrestling and sports. Freezing cold and chill. Oh man, pro wrestling is gonna get real interesting. CM Punk's back, Brock Lesnar's back. We're getting a real Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns feud. I'm excited. I am really excited for that. And All Out is in a couple weeks. CM Punk's first match, and it's against Darby Allin. So that's gonna be interesting too. So I'm actually kind of engaged again in pro wrestling. So we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks. So that's it for Very Cold Lasagna. Until next time, peace out.